The AWS Well-Architected Framework refer to the ability of system to recover from infrastructure or service disruption and dynamically acquire computing resources to meet demand. So, could you please tell me that what is, sorry, your screen is
Yeah,
not
I'm trying
sharing.
to do
Okay, okay.
just
Mm-hmm.
second. Can you see the questions?
Yeah, yeah, now I see. Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. So, which pillar of the AWS? So, there are the different pillars of AWS Well Architecture frameworks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for every framework refer to the ability. So he is asking for the one of the framework in which we are actually referred to ability of the system to recover from infrastructure or service disruption. So he's asking about either, let's suppose I have an application, right? And
Mm-hmm.
for application I wrote some infrastructure for it, right? So infrastructure means, if I am using 5 to 10 services, right? So you have to write or made the infrastructure first. So infrastructure basically we can say some diagrammatic view of our application, right? And the sum of the services that include in it, right? And after that, dynamically acquire the computing resources to meet demand. So dynamically acquired compute resources mean, let's suppose I have an application, and if my application requires the more traffic, right? Dynamically means if the traffic comes, then it automatically scale up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the traffic down, then it automatically comes down, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he is talking about which service is actually meet our demands in that case. So could you please read the question and tell me that what you understand about it?
Yeah, I mean, if
Hmm.
I don't know, a system is bombarded with a bunch of requests and something starts to not be able to handle those requests, it's gonna basically add additional uh
Yeah.
it's gonna acquire
So
more computing resources to be able
yes.
to meet those demands.
Hmm.
So basically,
Hmm.
it's gonna just
Hmm.
gonna your subscription of how much resources you're buying is gonna scale up or down based on the demand that's being
Yes.
generated.
Yes.
So
So basically, this line is what service is actually the definition of this line, right? Means actually it is security, actually it is reliability, actually it's performance efficiency, and these cost optimization.
probably
So
C
performance
or D.
optimization.
D. Actually, D makes more sense.
No, it's not for D. Because why not D? Because we are not talking about the cost optimization. Either we can say, hey, I want to my application cost optimize, means use that resources that are very, low in cost, right? So that is actually the cost optimization.
Okay,
So currently
so
we are talking about meet demand according to our trend, right? So let's suppose if I have 100% traffic, then my instance automatically scale up and then distribute this traffic, right? And if I gain more traffic, so gain the instance again and again, right? So in that case, the cost doesn't matter, right? And the so it is totally skip the cost optimization, and also the first one, security. So currently we is not talking about the security that I want a secure system or something like that, right? Now we have two option, either B and C. So what do you think about it? Which is more,
okay, the reason I thought it was cost optimization is because if you can set up a model just like I don't know, for example, Google BigQuery, where you're charged based on the number of resources that are being used to carry out the
hmm,
query, right? So why could you not set up a system where you're basically charged based on the amount of resources that your website or your application is going to consume, which is based on the
hmm.
demand that's being put on it? Why could that not be a model? I believe that is a
So
model.
So basically, it is not so in AWS, the cost optimization means cut off the cost, right? Means if I have 10 resources running in it, right? And if some client comes to us, hey, I want cost optimization for my application. That means he want to cut off their cost. Means he want to level down their resources, extra resources, which he actually don't want, right? So in that case, the line which we read doesn't talk about to cost optimization. So that's why it is not a definition of cost optimization, right? So
Mhm.
the upper line is basically the definition in in one of the service, right? Either it
Mhm.
is a definition of security, reliability, or cost. So definitely it is not a cost optimization, because in cost optimization we are talking about something relevant to down the resources and running only those resources which you actually need, or move or migrate your some of the services into different services that are low in cost, right? For
Mhm.
example, if I have an application that is running on EC2 instances, right, on servers. So
Yep.
EC2 instance has, high cost, right? So my client wants to, migrate its application from EC2 instance to on-prem servers, right? Because
Mhm.
on-prem server is a one buying, right? But EC2 instance is give you a cost according to per hour, right? So let's suppose if your application running on 365 days, then you have a really, really high cost for the EC2, right? But if the client wants the, cost optimization, then we are going to migrate his application to the some on-prem server. So he didn't, bear the cost of it, right? So this line is not talking about something like a cost optimization, right? And why not the security? Because it is not talking about either I want a higher security, or either I want to some encryption or something like that, right? So that's why the security is totally skipped. Now we have B and C option. So what do you think, which is the more suitable for this line? Try to understand the line, right? So which pillar of AWS well architecture framework? So this is the basically the four pillar of AWS well architecture framework, right? Refer to the ability of system to recover from infrastructure or service disruption. Let's suppose I have an application, and if I have some service disruption on my, we can take an example of Rafi Chaudhary, right? Let's suppose Rafi Chaudhary has some disruption, right? Means he got some, load of traffic, and actually they are blinking. Means my
Mhm.
website are blinking. Sometime it is up and sometime it is down, right? So
Mhm.
in that case, what you are going to do is you are basically scale up the instances, right?
Yep.
Why you scale up the instances? To bear those traffic if it comes, right? So this is something like a reliability, right? Means my application must be reliable, means that if they have some problem, then it automatically has some feature to bear up those traffic by automatically scaling up, but means dynamically behaving, right? So that's
Right.
why the reliability is the most suitable option for it, right? So for this MCQs, you can search about the some pillar of AWS Well Architecture Framework, right? And you can just read the definition of each pillar, right? So we have understanding.
What I would like for you to do is basically explain this question to me like you would to a complete beginner, and explain everything about this question, and explain to me what is the right answer, and use as many analogies as you possibly can to explain it to me so that I can actually grasp the concepts and the content into my brain. Period. Take into account everything that you know about learning progressions and how deep learning works, and use all of those learnings from psychology to explain it to me in such a way that there's no way I will ever forget this answer and this question, because I'm practicing for my AWS certification right now. That's what this is for.
So in this particular MCQs, we didn't have any, practical service, right? So we need to understand it theoretically.
Yeah, hold on.
So you can read this part, breaking down to the answer choices. So security pillar basically focusing on protecting your data, right? System assets. So do you understand it?
Hold on, I'm reading still.
Mhm.
Okay, I understand.
Mhm. Yeah. So basically the most suitable option is for reliability, right? So now
Yeah.
reveal the solution. Mhm. Okay. Now go to the third one, right? And this really easy one, right? So in that case, if you remember when we did a first lecture on AWS, I give you some, advantage of using the AWS, right? Why we need to migrate our on-prem resources into AWS cloud, right? Like what advantage AWS give us to migrate our on-premises application into AWS, right? So we need to select some benefit of AWS cloud migration, right? So what do you think is the most suitable option? Let's read one by one, right? So first one is operational resilience, right? So operational means any organization, right? That has some working environment and that has some working application, right? We can say it operational, right? And resilience means highly available and scalable, right? Means operational resilience totally means the application that is really highly available and scalable, which can help the organization to improve their operationals resources and the impact of the failures and disruption handling, right? Means it provides us the help to, if our website goes down or if application goes down, then it automatically available our application and scalable our application and reduce the impact of the failure, right? So that's the operational resilience mean. So do you think the AWS provide this type of the facility to us? Do you think?
I mean, the answers is A and C, I think.
So could you please tell me that why not B?
I don't know if that gets discounts on Amazon.com. That's not true.
Yeah, definitely. Discount for product on Amazon.com, that's not true, right? So Amazon.com is basically product which sells and user buy the products, right? But it is not definitely, that's a point where we can sell or buy the resources. So AWS is a different thing, right? So B is totally skipped, right? So you say C, business agility. What does it mean, business agility?
Uh, just being able to quickly try out different things, being agile. I mean, the
No,
rest of them don't
so
make any sense, really. Like business excellence, what does that
yeah.
even mean?
Yeah, but we need to understand what does it mean by business agility. So business agility means we can say the allowing them to people, it basically allowing the people to quickly and easily deploy the new application, right? Let's
Hmm.
suppose the Facebook or Netflix is using the AWS, right? And they want some making some updates on it, right? So they are very, in a quick way or in a very efficient way, they can update their applications, right? So
Hmm.
AWS provide us, the opportunity to increase our business, right? By allowing them
Hmm.
to quickly and easily deploy new application and services and scale the infrastructure up and down according to our need, right? And
Hmm.
experiment the new technologies. So that's mean the business agilities, right?
Yep.
And why not the business excellence? So business excellence is the something that's depend upon the person, right? So
Hmm.
if I want business excellence, so I will do some marketing. I will do my some product marketing. I will do some, I will check my product is capable of, purchasing or buying something like that, right? So this business excellence is not appropriate related to AWS, right? So AWS
Hmm.
doesn't provide you business excellence because AWS is not a purchase and sale a marketplace. It is a AWS Cloud, right? Where you
Hmm.
can buy the resources and use it, right? And why
Hmm.
not even increase staff retention?
I mean, again, that's what does that have anything to do with these are
Yeah. So
unrelated things.
in simple word, what does it mean by increase staff retention?
Like keeping more employees on in the to the company.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. So AWS doesn't provide you some staff to increase staff and then increase the retention of your business, something like that, right?
Right.
So that's not the purpose or advantage or benefit of using the AWS, right? So
Right.
that's why it is totally skipped or unmeaningful this part, right? So the correct option is A and A and C,
A
right?
and C.
Operational resilience, and C is business agility, right? And
Right.
others are really meaningful, right? So please read the question and option again and try to remember these options, right? By
Yeah.
logic, right?
Yeah, I understand the questions.
Hmm. So let's go to the next one.
Is this questions for the first test or for the second one or both?
This sorry, what does it mean?
Which certification are these questions for?
So this question is for the cloud practitioner certification.
That's the first one?
Yeah, first one. That's the cloud practitioner, not a CDA, right? So certified developer associate is a some different certification, and this certification is totally different from it, right? So this is the basic one, right? Currently we are discussing about.
So how many of these total questions are there that we have to go through? 1,000?
Here, yeah, around about 1,000.
So basically your plan, you're saying that just need to simply review all 1,000 of them and then we'll take the test, or do you have to review them again a second time around?
So once we because we are reviewing it, very individual question with the logic, right? So once we are done with 100 or 150 question, I will make some test for you, right? And we'll check either you understand completely this 150 question or not. So that's we go on next, right? In that way,
Until we cover all 1,000?
definitely,
So you think we can do that in a month and a half?
definitely we can do if we are regular on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So just give me a minute, Rafi. I come back.
Okay.
Just give me a minute. Yeah, Rafi coming back.
Okay.
Okay, let's read the fourth one. So a company is planning to replace physical on-prem computer service with AWS serverless computing service, right? So that's really understandable, right? Now the company wants to able to take advantage of advanced technologies quickly after the migration, right? And which pillar of the AWS well architecture framework does this plan present? So we already, read the pillars, right? So we have an idea what is security, what is reliability, what is performance efficiency, or maybe what is operational excellence, right? So he is talking about there is a company, right? Maybe any company. Let's suppose Rafi Chaudhary has some company, right? And Rafi Chaudhary companies want to replace all their physical servers, which is located in their on-prem location to AWS, right? So they want to migration on AWS, right?
Mhm.
And the company wants to able to take advantage of advanced technology quickly after the migration. So once they all migrated their servers into AWS, so they want some, advanced technology used for it, right? So which pillar is the most suitable or the definition of these lines? What do you think?
Let me think.
Mhm. Really easy. If you read the question again, you will get the answer. Yeah, Rafi, what do you think? So
Hold on,
just
hold on,
try
hold
to
on.
understand.
Wait,
Okay.
hold on. Let me think about this.
Mm-hmm.
Probably this one.
Operational excellence. So if you remember, we discussed about the operational excellence. What is the operational excellence is? So operational excellence is something that wants to, if some has failure in our application, that it automatically, scale up our application or handle some errors in our application. Now currently we are talking about advanced technology.
That's a separate word. It said resilience here.
And go to there down. What does it
This is
mean?
not, this is a
Operation.
different
We
word here,
read
right?
it. I think we read the operational excellence before.
Where does
Go
it say
up.
excellence here?
Yeah, okay. So operational resilience, and what the word we are using here? Operational excellence.
Yeah, two separate words, right?
Okay, yeah, that's the separate. If they are operational excellent, that is a different one. Okay, yeah. So it is not, so operational excellence means if your organization running some application has some operations, right? Then it must be excellent at it. That what does it mean by operational excellence is, so let's suppose I have an application on AWS, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that are fully functional, right? And if my application, has different type of the user, right? So users spend the best time on my application, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not depend upon the main pillar. So our pillar is operational resilience, so something like that. So that's not a pillar of AWS, so we need to understand it, right? So currently the statement which we're reading is the company want to migrate some physical server to AWS, and when they come to the AWS, they want some, additional or some advanced technologies, right? So why they need advanced technology? So you need to understand why they migrate their on-prem application to AWS, because they want a performance efficiency, right? Means they want something that more qualify their product, right? More efficient their product, right? So they want some performance efficiency. That's why they are migrating, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there is a no purpose of security, reliability according to the statement of the question, right? So the statement of the question is fully matches with performance efficiency, because they are
Mm-hmm.
talking about some advanced technology quickly after the migration, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Okay. Operational efficiency is the answer.
No, performance efficiency.
Or sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so on the test, you're saying that these questions will and the answer choices will be exactly as they are?
Yes, definitely.
Like it'll have this question and exactly these four options?
Yes, even the options format is also the same, like in same in the queue, right?
I gotta just memorize this.
You need to be memorized once you understand it, right? So first you have to understand, then you can memorize it, right?
Okay.
So you know the logic behind this question, and then you can understand the question, then you memorize it,
And
right?
there's no hands-on part of it. It's just the question.
Currently there for this question there is no hands-on part, because this is the theoretical part, right? So
Okay.
once we go to the hands-on part, we will do it, right?
No, I mean like on the test, there
Mm-hmm.
is nothing, no configurations I
No,
have
no,
to
no,
do, nothing
no,
like that,
no,
right?
no, no. In test, there is no practical part. There is all of that are MCQs, right? You have
Okay.
to. There's some MCQs that has a single option, and some has double options, right? Which we done
Right.
previously. Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to further. Okay, I think that's also really easy one. So let's read the question. A large company has multiple departments, right? Each department has its own AWS account. Each department has purchased Amazon EC2 reserved instances, right? So here we have one technical term which is EC2 reserved instances, right? So we have a multiple type of the instances on the AWS, right? So instances or EC2 means servers, right? So the EC2 or servers or instances that we are actually buying on AWS has multiple type, right? And one of the type is reserved, right? So what does it mean by the reserved? So reserved instances are those instances that is reserved by the AWS, right? And it is, a very cheaper to use, right? And why it is cheaper? Because this reserve instances has some time frame, right? Let's suppose if my application has a very long term, right? So you can buy a 2 years or 5 year plan from AWS for these instances, right? So this is
Mhm.
basically the reserve instances, right? And one of the type we have is, on demand instances, right? So these instances are basically per hour, right? So you have to bear the cost according to the per hour, and these instances are, very very expensive, right? But the reserve instances are very cheaper, because in these instances you buy some plan of AWS for this server, like 2 year plan, 1 year plan, or 10 year plan, right? So that's why it is cheaper. So this is the same thing like you go to some shopping mall, right? And you want to purchase something, right? And when you purchase something, you see the some discounts, right? On the basis of 2 to 3 products, right? If you
Mhm.
buy 2 to 3 products, you will get one free, right? So this is the
Mhm.
same thing like on AWS. If we have a long term, right, for using servers, so we can buy the reserve instance instead of on demand, right?
Mhm.
So a large company has multiple department. Each department has AWS account, and each department has purchased some EC2 reserve instances, right?
Mhm.
Next, go on. Some department do not use all the reserve instances that they purchase, right? Means
Mhm.
some department does, so every department has AWS account and every department has buy some reserve instances, but he says some of the department reserve instances they actually buy are not used, right? So they are empty and no one is using it, right?
Mhm.
So in that case, now let's read next. So some department do not use reserve instances they purchase, and other department need more instances than they purchase, right? The
Mhm.
company need to manage the AWS count for all the departments, so the department can share the reserve instances. So the question is very simple, right? A large
Mhm.
organization has departments. Each department has some, EC2 reserve instances, right? And these EC2 reserve instances are using by some department, but some department are not using it, right? And now
Mhm.
the company wants to use some reserve instances into the other account, right, which are
Mhm.
actually not using, and which are actually using and need of lot of servers, so they can usually use the free resources or free reserve instances, right? So they want some service in which they are actually managing the AWS account, right? So
Mhm.
which service is most suitable for managing the AWS account? First is AWS System Manager, right? So you need to understand these services. First is AWS System Manager. So this service is basically used to for security purposes, right? Let's suppose I have a secret, I have some parameters I want to store on AWS, I can use this service. And the second one is Cost Explorer. Cost Explorer is the service that provides us the facility of calculating the cost, right? And
Mhm.
third one is AWS Trusted Advisor. So Trusted Advisor means this service is basically used either if you come through the AWS, right? So what opportunity you will get in this, right? And third
Mhm.
one is AWS organization that is basically used to manage the AWS account. So what do you think the most suitable option is?
Okay.
D1, right? Why?
Hold on, hold on,
Because
hold on.
it,
Wait. Hold on, wait. I haven't read the questions.
oh, okay.
Yeah, hold on.
Read the question again.
I don't know, maybe this A.
Why? So I said the AWS System Manager is basically used to store some secrets of your application or store some parameters, right? So let's do demo in this against this service,
Yeah,
right?
let me go to
So
this ChatGPT. Hold on.
yeah, and also we are going to discuss this on AWS account, right? So in parallel, you can open the AWS account.
Okay, let me read this first.
So are you able to understand it?
I'm reading. Hold on.
Mhm.
So essentially, this is no different from the Okta one I took. Basically, all they're doing with this exam is just teaching you about their product. That's literally it,
Yes. Hmm.
which is so
Yeah.
stupid because, like,
Hmm.
what is the point of learning about someone's product, which you're changing every day, right? Like, things are
So
coming in
basically,
and
the
out.
some MCQs related to some AWS, right? What is AWS and what are the products? But some of them that are basically services related, right? What is EC2, what is because this is the AWS certification, so all the questions are something related to the AWS, right? And AWS is a cloud, right? So if you want that knowledge or experience on the cloud, then you have to do a certification, right? Either you want to do certification in AWS, either you want to do on Azure, either you want to on Google Cloud, right? So it's your choice. But the most famous one right now is AWS, right? And most in demand.
Right.
Yeah, are you able to understand both the questions? So basically, we just need to understand what is AWS organization, right? So AWS organization is one of the AWS service, right? That
Hmm.
help us or provide us the facility to managing the different AWS account, right? So
Hmm.
we can take an example by opening to the AWS account. So go to the AWS account. So
Okay, hold on one second.
Mhm.
Hmm. Open what? This right here?
AWS, yeah. Yeah, click on sign in. Yeah, and go to the organization. Write the on search bar, write organization.
Hmm. Good organization.
On search bar, write organization.
Oh.
Yeah, first service, AWS organization, right? So this is the service that we basically use to managing the multiple AWS account, right?
Hmm.
Let's suppose the company in which you are currently working, right? So this is the large organization, right? So
Hmm.
if they want or plan to migrate on AWS, and then they will definitely buy lot of AWS account, right? And what
Hmm.
is the purpose of creating lot of AWS account? So creating a multiple AWS account is basically help you to isolate the resources according to your project or departments, right? So
Hmm.
let's suppose I have a one department with the name of financial. So financial department use their own account, and the some of the client project has some on different AWS account, right? So if we have hundreds of the AWS account, then we need a some unified dashboard or a one dashboard in which we actually managing those account, right? Instead
Hmm.
of goes through the account one by one and give the permission one by one, we can use a one service, right? In which we can combine the different account into one account and managing it, right? So
Right.
AWS organization is basically the service that help us or provide us the facility to managing the multiple AWS account, right? So this is basically used for it, right? So let's suppose in which currently you are in, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this account is also managed by the some AWS organization, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
have to remember that AWS organization is not managed by sub account, right? For example, currently you are in which account? This is basically a sub account, right?
Mm-hmm.
Means this account doesn't have a permission of AWS organization, right? So you have to remember that only the root account has a permission of AWS organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot use the AWS organization service for the sub account, right? So only the root account. What does it mean by the root account? So first time that you created the AWS account, that is your root account, right? And when you created a multiple account, this is basically the child accounts, right? That child account are basically associated with the parent account, which we call the root account, right? And only the root account has a permission of AWS organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why the only the parent account and root account has AWS organization service permissions? Because we need to manage all the child account from one account, right? So that's why only one account has or root account has permission of AWS organization.
Right.
So in our MCQ, they are also talking about they have a very big company, and in big company they want to manage the multiple resources on different AWS account. So they can manage it by using this service, which is AWS organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So now go to the next one. Yeah. Okay. So let's read. This is also the easy one. Which component of AWS global infrastructure made up of one or more discrete data centers that have redundant power, networking, and connectivity? So if you remember our first lecture, we discussed about some, global infrastructure of the AWS. Global infrastructure means AWS has regions. Then in regions they have availability zones, and in availability zone they have data centers, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you read the question, which component, right? In the following component, which component is basically used for AWS global infrastructure to made up one or more discrete data centers, right? That have redundant power, means same type of power or different power, networking and connectivity, means this, which service has the data centers. So could you please
Mm-hmm.
tell me, in region we have data centers, in availability zone we have data centers, in edge location we have data centers, or AWS output have data centers?
Well, last time when we talked about these things, we talked about the edge location is the one that has
Edge
different.
Edge location is basically related to CloudFront, and the purpose of creating the edge location is that to serve the content quickly, right? But in edge location we don't have a data centers, right? Edge location is basically part of data center, right? This is not a place where the data center is located, right? So edge location is a concept where the data center is present, right? But in question they are talking about which component is made up of one or more data centers.
Hmm.
Just try to understand. First thing, which first thing we have in AWS? In AWS, we have first thing which is regions, right? So
Right.
AWS spread their regions all over the world. What does it mean by regions? Region mean different countries, right? So
Mm-hmm.
AWS has data center on different countries, right? For example, in USA, in USA, in Singapore, in India, or other countries, they have some, data centers, right? So
Mm-hmm.
region is basically the countries, right, in which they have data center. And then
Mm-hmm.
we have availability zones. So availability zones is basically the different cities in which they created the data centers. And data centers is basically actually the places where your data center is, right? So he says in which component data centers are basically made up or located. So our data center is located on availability zones, right? And if someone asks you where the availability zone is located, you can say the availability zone is located on AWS region, right?
So
So
basically, the breakdown is that first it's regions, within regions are zones, within zones are locations, and within locations are outposts.
no, outputs is nothing, right? And it is not related to this part
Is that actual
globally considered.
service or that's just a made up thing?
That's also the service, but that is not the purpose of in this MCQs, right?
Okay,
So
then
this
tell me
is
this. When they give these options like this, these different types of
hmm.
services, do they ever make
Hmm.
up a service completely or are they always real services?
So yeah, all of that are real services, but some of the services are not relevant to your question, right? Like outposts, right? So this is not related to the global infrastructure, right? Means global infrastructure means we have a regions, we have availability zone, and we have, data centers, right? So
Mm,
two of the services are related to global infrastructure, and the second C and D is not related to it. Education is related to CloudFront, right? And
mm,
D, AWS Outpost is a different service. Only the two is related to the question, and our question is that where our data centers are located or made up. Our data center is in the availability zone, right? So second one is the correct option. And if someone asks you where the availability zone is located, then you can say it in AWS region, right? So
mm.
we can take an example by going to the AWS account. So go to your AWS account and let's see how many regions we have. Go to the AWS account. Yeah. So if I want to check how many regions I have, so click on Ohio, United States. No, 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 this is not a service. So in account, you will see your regions on a very right side, on the left side of your name, root cert user. No, no, on the upper bar, the black bar. Yeah, right side. On right side. Yeah, this one. Yeah, 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 right one. Yeah. Cert user has left side of Ohio. Yeah. Click on this. So this is basically all the regions currently you have, right? North Virginia, uh, Mumbai, Osaka, right? So these are basically regions, right? And
Mm.
in this region, we have availability zones, right? So currently you are unable to see the availability zones, but in that particular region we have availability zone. And what is the naming convention we use for the availability zone? Let's suppose just move your cursor up. Move cursor up. Yeah. So first region is North Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm.
US East one, right? So this is basically region, right? And in this region has six availability zone. And how we can name it? We name it US East 1A, US East 1B, US East 1C, US East 1D, E, F, something like that, right? And this availability zones has actually data centers, right? Where your physical service of the AWS servers are located, right? So this is basically the regions, and in region we have availability zone, and in availability zones we have data center.
Okay, so basically you have regions. Within
Yes.
regions, you have availability zones. So where can I see the availability zones here?
Yeah. So currently you are unable to see the availability zone here, but when you create some service, you will see the availability zone. Let's suppose
So
go to the VPC. Yeah. Go to the VPC.
what VPC?
Click on VPC service on the left side and search for a VPC server. Yeah. And open some VPC that already created. Click on VPCs. Just click on the any of the VPC. Yeah. Go down and go down. Yeah. And move your cursor on right side. So I don't think so. They have some network connection. Select other VPC. Go down. Yeah, here you will see the some US is 2A, B, C. This is basically your availability zones, right? So US is 2 is a region, right? And in this region, we have three availability zone, right? Whose name is US is 2A. US is to B, and US is to C, right? And
Mm,
in this availability zone, actually we have data centers, but we are unable to see these data centers because this is only known by the AWS, right? Where the data center is.
mhm.
Yeah, so this is basically the availability. Now go to the AWS MCQs again and read it one time, then move to the next.
The answer was what was it? Region, right?
No, availability zones. Because in data, where the data center is located. So data center is made up of availability zones, right? And availability zone is made up from AWS region.
I need to put this through ChatGPT also because I need
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah, sure.
like analogies or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Try to
yeah,
use analogies to
definitely,
explain it to me if possible.
definitely.
Mm. A data center is a physical place, right? A physical
Yes,
warehouse with
yes,
computers in it, right?
yes. Where your server is located.
Outpost basically means you got your own computers and they're basically hooking up and storing information in your computer in your data center.
It is same
They're
like
giving you their
on-prem data
service, but you're
centers.
managing it on your physical server on your data,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have in. in my company,
Mm-hmm.
except we do.
Mm-hmm.
We
Uh,
have AWS.
are any cloud your company is using right now?
I
Like
think we're doing
AWS?
that, but with Google Cloud, same kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
think we take the service from them and we
Mm-hmm.
host it in our own warehouses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we can also take the advantage of some of the cloud services by attaching to our data centers.
Yeah,
Hmm. And it's totally depend upon, the clients, right? So if your company gets the client related to AWS, then they definitely want you to learn AWS and do some stuff like that, right?
right. Yeah, 1 second. 1 second, bro.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I think I understand the concept.
Yeah, let's move to the next one. Okay. Okay,
What
let's read this. Yeah.
which duties are the responsibility of a company that is using AWS Lambda?
Yeah. So currently we need to understand what is AWS Lambda is, right? So we know the what is AWS EC2 instance. So AWS EC2 instance is a basically service which is server, right? Basically a server, a cloud server, right? Now, if our application wants to deploy in some serverless application, what does it mean by serverless? A application which is not actually deploying some server, right?
Mhm.
In the backend, they actually deploy on some server, but in AWS we have a service with the name of AWS Lambda, right? So AWS Lambda is basically serverless application. Serverless application means, let's suppose if I want to deploy my application on AWS Lambda, so I don't want to use any specification for it, right? For example, if my application needs a 12 vCPU memory or 250 GB RAM or something like that. So you don't need to allocate some resources for it, right? Because you are using the serverless application. So this type of the application is serverless, in which we doesn't create any storage, doesn't create or select any RAM or vCPU, something like that, right? So this type of the things are automatically managed by AWS, right? And that help to scale automatically your application without any need to worry about servers, right? Because if we creating the EC2 server, then we have to manage it and we have to take the responsibility of this service, right? But if we creating the AWS Lambda, so this is basically the serverless application that is automatically managed by AWS, right? So your responsibility is only that you just need to put your code into the AWS Lambda, right? And then AWS Lambda is automatically deploy your application on it, right? And your application will work on it, right? So that's the purpose of creating the AWS Lambda. Now he is actually talking about what are the responsibilities or what are the duties of the company of using the AWS Lambda, right? Means what type of the responsibility at the company end if using the AWS Lambda, right? So I just told you, if we are using the AWS Lambda, then we don't need to worry about resources, you know and selecting the CPU resources, memory resources, right? So we don't need to worry about it, right? So now let's check the option and what do you think the most suitable for it. So what duties are, basically he asking what are the duties or what are the responsibility of company if they are using the AWS Lambda. So there are two type of the responsibility in AWS Lambda. One is AWS take the responsibility and then the customer side responsibility, right? So now they are asking about the what is the company responsibility if they are using the Lambda, right? Means what things company can manage if they are using AWS Lambda, right? So I already told you the AWS thing, that AWS Lambda is actually managed. Like you don't need to worry about CPU resources, you don't need to worry about what operating system you can use, right? Or you don't need to worry about your infrastructure security, right? So all of these things are managed by AWS, right? The only
Mm-hmm.
things you need to worry about or your company need to worry about if they are using the AWS Lambda is only the code, right? Means
Mm-hmm.
if you have you because you want to give the code to the Lambda, right? And the security of the code and whatever in the code is your responsibility, right? Not a AWS Lambda responsibility, right? So AWS Lambda is giving you a resources for running your application, but it does not give you a responsibility of what is actually right in your code in, right? So first one, security inside of the code. What do you think? What is the actually responsibility? Either AWS responsibility or either it is our responsibility or company responsibility. Security inside of code. Like if I write some code, right, and they have some security breach in it, right? So who took the responsibility of this code? Either AWS or either your company who wrote the code. Very simple.
Hold on. Definitely this one.
So we need to select those options, right? Which we our company take the responsibility of using the Lambda, right? So you just need to pick those services in which AWS doesn't took responsibility. So first one is security inside of code. So security inside of code, whose the responsibility is that? Either your company or either AWS. What do you think? Means if I write some code and they have some security breach, right? So who are going to take the responsibility of this security breach? AWS or me?
AWS would take care of this one.
No, because the code is written by me, right? And if they have some security breaches in
Oh,
my
so it's
code,
talking about within the code, like as in like
yes,
you have
yes,
some, I
as
don't
a
know,
developer,
username,
yeah.
password in the
Yeah,
code that
yeah,
you
yeah.
wrote, and someone
Definitely.
else.
Definitely. That's your mistake or your company mistake, right? So AWS doesn't provide you this type of the facility. If you have some security code breaches in your code, then you took the responsibility of it, right? So if you see the question, he says choose two options, right? So one is the that one, security inside of the code is the responsibility of company to manage it, right? But the B1, the selection of CPU resources is automatically managed by AWS Lambda, right? So it is not our responsibility. We just need to select those responsibilities which is related to our company or ourselves, right? Which we need to manage it. So first one we need to manage is security inside of code, and the second one is managed by AWS Lambda, so we can skip it. And third one is patching of operating system. This is also responsibility of AWS Lambda, right? So we don't need to worry about operating system, right? And D1 is writing and updating of code definitely is our responsibility, right? Means our company responsibility. And security and underlying infrastructure is definitely managed by AWS Lambda, right? So the two options which is the responsibility of our company is A and C, right? Security of code and writing the code. Simple
Right,
as that. And all the things like CPU resources, operating system is managed by AWS Lambda by himself, right?
right.
So are you done with reading?
No, not yet. Hold on.
Hmm.
Patching means what? Fixing it?
Patching is basically it's related to the operating system, right? So let's suppose what does it mean by operating system like Windows, like Linux, right? Something like that, right? And what does it mean by the patching? So patching means like handling your operating system, installing the things related to these drivers or all that things, right? Related to OS.
Patching means like setting things up.
Setting things up, drivers or something like that.
Okay.
You know, when you install the some Windows on your machine first time, right? So they install some drivers or some, some security and automatically, if you have some installation issue, they automatically fix it, some bugs, vulnerabilities, right? So all
Mhm.
of these things are related to operating system patching,
Okay.
like keeping system safe from some threats or something like that, right? Security, it is
Mhm.
something like a security. Oh, are you meditating?
Okay. Got it.
Mhm. So we can go to the AWS to just check what is the Lambda is, right? And what the service is. So go to your AWS account. So you already opened it, yeah. You just need to search, go to search and search for Lambda. Yeah. Click on this one, right? So
What
this
did that
is
say? Hold on.
our,
One code without what?
sorry, Lambda, LAMBD.
One code, I think about servers.
Hmm. So run code without server, right? Server means without any machine, right? So this is
Yeah.
basically AWS service that provide us facility to run our application code without any need to worry about server, right? We does not need to set any operating system. We do, we does not need to select any resources, any RAM, any SSD for our instance, right? So if
Mhm.
you remember when we create the EC2 server, we need to select some options like what is the security group for it, what is the key pair, and selecting the some operating system for it, right? So in that case, you don't need to worry about your server related things, right? So AWS Lambda are going to manage by itself, right? You just need to
Mhm.
worry about your code, right? So once you have a code, you just need to create a Lambda function, and then your Lambda function is going to, your code is automatically going to deploy in this function, right? And your
Mhm.
application is going to be built. So let's suppose if I want to create a function, you just need to click on this create function, right? Click on it, create functions. This is the function which you already created. If you want to create your own function, right? So how you can create it? Go to the functions again, go back, yeah. Create function, click on create function on right side, the orange button, yeah. So now let's suppose I have a application code, right, that I made successfully. Now I want to deploy my code on AWS. So I does not want to use any EC2 servers, right, or selecting any operating system. Then I am going to prefer the Lambda, right? So you go to the Lambda and you select the author from scratch, right, and you did some function name, right? This is my, let's suppose, Node.js application code, right? So whatever the code you have to set is runtime. Let's suppose
Mhm.
if my code is made on Python, then you need to select a runtime Python, right? So runtime means he is going to run your code into some installer, right? So
Mhm.
he asking you either you want a Node.js installer, either you want a Python installer. So whatever your code type is, you will select the installer accordingly. So just click on this Node.js 2022X, so you will see the different option at the runtime. Yeah, just click on this Node.js 2022 button. Yeah, here you will see whatever the code you already written for your application, you have to just select this installer, right? For example, I wrote my application on Ruby, then I will select Ruby. If I wrote my application on Python, I will select the Python, right? If I wrote in Java, then you will need to select Java, right? So once
Are these the
you
only possible things you could have written your stuff in? Is this the list of all the coding languages?
No, there are some supportive languages. It doesn't support all the languages. Just go down, you will see all the languages that Lambda supported, right? So mostly it's Python, Node.js, Ruby, and Java and .NET, right? So, so this is the actually main one, right? Which the Lambda supported. So it doesn't support all the languages, but the very usually or common used languages are Lambda supported, right? So once you selected the installer, then you are going to just click on create function, then your function is created. Then you just need to put your code in it. And when you need to put code in it, it automatically deployed by Lambda, right? So in that thing, we didn't want to manage all the things like server management, like memory management, like operating system management, right? So all of these things are managed by Lambda automatically, right? Because it is a serverless service, right? Serverless means without server. Simple as that.
Mhm.
Now go to the next MCQs.
Now what?
Go to the next MCQs.
How much longer do you want to do the class?
I think that just this is just the last one
Okay.
we going to discuss. Yeah, just go down. Okay. Now read the MCQs. Which AWS services or feature provide disaster recovery solution for Amazon instances? Let's suppose you have an Amazon instances in which your application is deployed, right? Now, let's suppose your application have some disaster. So disaster recovery means your application is goes down, right? And now you want to recover it, right? That means you have a disaster, and for the disaster you must have some recovery, right? Let's suppose if Rafi Chaudhary .com has shut down, right? So how we can up it, right? How we can recover the data for it, right? So if our application, if you remember, our website is basically managed by GoDaddy, right? So let's suppose if our application got some error or our application is shutting down, then we go to the GoDaddy spot, and GoDaddy spot is basically check the servers, right? What is the actual cause of an issue, and once they got an issue, then they will tell you here this is your issue. But if you want to do a backup, so they can do a backup for you, right? So how they can do a backup? They basically, automatically back have a backup on their databases, right? So they just fetch the backup and reinstall into your WordPress, right? So that's how the backup things work in WordPress, right? So in that case, let's suppose our application is deployed on EC2 instances on AWS, right? And let's suppose our application goes down, right? So in that case, we are using the Amazon EC2 instances, and now I want to recover my application. So you can recover your application by two of the services in which we have multiple options, right? So we need to select those services which we can use to recover our data due to disaster recovery, right? So first thing is reserve instances. So this is not a service which really helpful for disaster recovery. Disaster recovery means recover data after the disaster, right? So this is not a service for disaster recovery. Reserve instance is just a type of EC2, right? Second is AMI. Yes, this is the service that provide you facility of backup. So what is AMI? AMI means every EC2 instance has some unique AMI, right? So AMI has all the details of your instance, like what operating system you are using, what type of the files in it, right? So when you do the backup of your AMI, it has all the things the currently your instance have, right? So we can do a backup by using the AMI, right? EC2 machine image. And third one is elastic block store. So EBS volume is same like a hard drive, right? In our actual computer, in our PCs, we have a hard disk, right? So in AWS, the hard disk is EBS volume, right? So let's suppose if your instance got some stuck, or if your instance got some disaster and you want to recover your data, you can also use this EBS volume service, right? So in EBS volume, we basically create a snapshot. Snapshot means taking the image or taking the backup of your EC2 instance, right? So you can use this service for the backup, right? And the AWS Shield it is not related to the backup. AWS Shield is related to the security service, and the e-service guard duty is also something related to security and compliance, right? So the does backup services after the disaster is B and C, AMI and Amazon EBS snapshot that is related to EC2 instances. So do you understand it?
Yeah, kind of. It's just I need to understand each of these more detail. Let me put this in here. Mm.
Yeah, understand it.
I'm reading still. Hold on one second.
Mhm.
This DOS attack is basically like where basically a hacker comes in, and when someone tries to access your content or something, they basically show this message. Can't show the
So
content.
yeah, DDoS attack is something like if you have application and they want to some uh vulnerability text or send the dummy traffic again and again, right, to busy your application or shut down your application, right? So this is something like a distributed denial of service or DDoS attack, right? Means sending too much request to your application to shut down your application, right?
Hmm. Okay, I understand the concept, I think.
Okay. Okay. That's it for today.